Fine job.
I'm honored to be here today and have the opportunity to comment on these excellent papers. Each of them is interesting when taken individually, but in thinking about them, you can see they cover a lot of ground. It seemed that it would be more interesting if they were considered collectively. So I think also these papers form a real framework for the rest of the program for this forum in the spring. So in the next few slides, these remarks will focus on where the papers intersect and what some of the implications of the paper's conclusions might be. Okay, so for perspective, this is a slide that I often use when I'm speaking to macro themes that are shaping the experience of retirement practitioners today, such as plan sponsors. It's not here to go through these bullet points, which would be familiar to just about everybody here, but rather to call attention to the last of the bullets, which is retirement readiness is a wild card. Without exception, whenever I make this point, it resonates, no matter who the audience is, because nobody really has a good fix on this in the institutional community. The comments today that follow in the next few slides will cover general and specific observations about the papers, some questions that I think the papers raise, an overlay of plan participant and plan sponsor perspectives that I think offer some enlightenment about some of the points that the papers make, and some potential implications of the paper's conclusions, all in 12 minutes. Mm-hmm. So with that, to the next slide. There we go. Okay. I have 6 general observations on the papers. And this was a challenge. These were long papers, as you'll see when you get to your memory sticks. It's implicit in, and they're really dense on numbers. So you will not find many numbers in my slides. It's implicit in both the Vander High and the Boston College papers that retirement readiness for individuals and households is central to the success of current retirement plan system. That is a given is actually worth noting because until pretty recently, success for defined contribution plans was almost universally talked about in terms of percent participation or maybe among the more enlightened plan sponsors, percent of deferral rate. The second common perspective that I thought was interesting is that most models and analyses are based on an age 65 premise, and I'll get a little bit more on that later. The third point is that the effect of methodology is quite significant on the results. One of the most interesting distinctions is that Jack's research uses average living expenses as its starting point, whether that's directly connected to retirement income level or replacement or not, effectively beginning with an adequacy outcome. That's why the 100% in the EBRI model is so important. The Boston College paper works with a more common replacement income structure. That's typical of most of the models that you see across the academic spectrum. The fourth point is that assumptions count even more. This is particularly clear in the Boston College paper analysis on the Schultz and Hurd studies, which show how an embedded assumption or two can radically change the apparent outcomes. Fifth, conventional wisdom is being replaced by more nuanced findings. The norms that were taken for granted around retirement, I think for many years, seem to be changing shape. One of the implications of the Coronado paper's analysis on the economy's effect on employment is that pre-retirement income is not necessarily a reasonable proxy for baseline adequacy post-retirement. Finally, as the boomer generation in particular moves into traditional retirement age, it's changing views on what retirement means in terms of work, both in expectations and in actual practice. Okay, building on these general observations, the models show that some levers are a lot more significant than others, and they're not the ones you'd think they would be. It seems intuitive that the group in the first section, rate of return, use of housing equity, working till age 70, obviously those should have a big effect on retirement readiness. It turns out that's not true. And the I think particularly interesting is the working until age 70, and this is really drawn from Jack's model, has a relatively minor effect on the overall ability of households to sustain consumption and spending on into retirement. Couple that with the Coronado labor statistics, and that really is I think a telling point. The factors in the second set on the slide turn out to be very significant. Eligibility for a DC plan. This is a lifetime, type of full career kind of correlation, which I think is very interesting. The existence of a DB accrual, regardless of size, is very significant. Not a surprise to someone from an insurance company that the effect of longevity is quite striking, but it's helpful to have it quantified, I think, for a number of reasons. And the longer the lifespan, the impact of annuitizing on the level of savings required for adequacy is very significant. It's interesting that all of the papers, all of the academic work here, in an attempt to answer the question, what's the best that you could have in the way of an outcome, all use some form of annuity, transitioning wealth of whatever form into an annuity type of form, which not everybody does. In fact, very few people currently do for a number of reasons. And you really need that for optimizing the results that you get. So most of these household results are best case scenarios. They are not average scenarios. And a final point to make here is that the area where more work I think is needed is around acute health care, post-Affordable Care Act, and the uninsured long-term care impact. The EBRI model is the only one that deals with this, and it's the initial results I think are really interesting and could stand to be built on. Questions the papers raise. There are a number of them, but I focused on only 3. Is 65 the best age to use in models? I offer that question considering that 62 is far and away the most popular age for beginning benefits. 45% of men and 50% of women born in 1943 and 44 elected to begin benefits at 62. Electing benefits at 62 carries an inherent 25% reduction in lifetime benefit for Social Security. The models assume an age 65 rate. This implies that the effective early retirement might be quite significant. Jack and I have talked about that, and I think that's a key area of focus of interest going forward. Second, under what circumstances should past experience not be considered a strong foundation for prospective work? The 2 studies that the Boston College paper dealt with suggest that attention should really be paid to this. When looking across research studies, extra care should be taken to be sensitive to reliance on those kinds of assumptions. And third, is more research needed on post-consumption patterns in households with children? It seems pretty clear that might be a good idea. Current statistics, 32%, I didn't realize it was as high, of all young adults 18 to 34 are living with their parents. So they do not leave the households at 18, and they certainly do not result in lower consumption at 18, and this continues into their 30s. 56% of those who are 18 to 24 are living with their parents in 2012. I know a lot of you have kids in these age groups, so it's pretty interesting. A couple of quick perspectives, just a couple of points to make on these. EBRI's 2014 24th Retirement Confidence Survey, I think a couple points are of particular interest. The retirement confidence is highly correlated to having a retirement plan. That matches the Retirement Readiness Index findings. Of particular interest is the focus on the importance of retirement income is rising among American workers when they actually are provided with useful information about how savings and income are related. Of interest is that only a little over half of the folks surveyed were able or willing to answer basic plan balance and contribution questions to enable an answer to that question, which suggests that there's more work to do in this area. And of particular interest is that The main reason for not increasing contributions of those who are falling short is they don't have extra income to spend. They need it for current consumption, which supports the paycheck-to-paycheck kind of model. From a plan sponsor perspective, this slide is based on MetLife proprietary research. And what we find is retirement income awareness and culture is highly correlated with plan type. But the feature to bring, I think, people's attention to that's maybe most telling is best case scenario, company that has both a defined benefit and a defined contribution plan. Even among those companies, nearly a third of sponsors believe most of their workers will get to retirement age without adequate ability to finance retirement. So finally, I will close with four predictions and implications. I did practice this, Olivia, and it ran just 12 minutes. Retirement patterns are uncertain and may become less predictable. Awareness of the importance of income at and after retirement is likely to grow. There are multiple implications of active employees over 65 for sponsors, representing new kinds of workforce management challenges, unanticipated effects on auto features, plan accruals, RMD rules, DB disbursements, healthcare, just to mention a few. And finally, and I think this point was really taken from the Coronado work, there are multiple implications of retirement inadequacy if not addressed. And one of the most telling there is the long-term drag on economic growth tied to a weaker consumer sector. So with that, I'll close. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.